to everyone. It's really good to see everyone here today, and I just want to give my biggest thank you to Brother Shamir for giving me this opportunity to give back to my community. And I don't think there's a greater honor than that, and it's not something that I take lightly. Before I get started with anything that I have to say today, I'm going to call up Brother Hamza Gadir to give a Quran verse teaching Surah An-Nisa.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الرجال قوامون على النساء بما فضل الله بعضهم على بعض وبما أنفقوا من أموالهم فالصالحات قانتات حافظات للغيب بما حفظ الله واللاتي تخافون نشوزهن فعظوهن واهجروهن في المضاجع واضربوهن فإن أطعنكم فلا تبغوا عليهن سبيلا إن الله كان عليا كبيرا وإن خفتم شقاق بينهما فابعثوا حكما من أهله وحكما من أهلها إن يريدا إصلاحا يوفق الله بينهما إن الله كان عليما خبيرا واعبدوا الله ولا تشركوا به شيئا وبالوالدين إحسانا وبذي القربى واليتامى والمساكين والجار ذي القربى والجار الجنب والصاحب بالجنب وبن السبيل وما ملكت أيمانكم إن الله لا يحب من كان مختالا فخورا الذين يبخلون ويأمرون الناس بالبخل ويكتمون ما آتاهم الله من فضله وأعتدنا للكافرين عذابا مهينا والذين ينفقون أموالهم رياء الناس ولا يؤمنون بالله ولا باليوم الآخر ومن يكن الشيطان له قرينا فساء قرينا وماذا عليهم لو آمنوا بالله واليوم الآخر وأنفقوا مما رزقهم الله وكان الله بهم عليما إن الله لا يظلم مثقال ذرة وإن تك حسنة يضاعفها ويؤت من لدنه أجرا عظيما فكيف إذا جئنا من كل أمة بشهيد وجئنا بك على هؤلاء شهيدا صدق الله العظيم.
Takbir. Jazakallah khair for that, Hamza. Bismillah walhamdulillah wa sallallahu ala Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We begin with the blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we send peace and blessings upon His Messenger, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And I know I mentioned it in the beginning, but I just cannot thank Brother Shamir and Masjid Sadar for allowing me to give this talk. And if this is your first time at family night, I hope you leave with the intention that it won't be your last. I hope you come to our next gathering next month. I'll be joining Ramadan. I hope you can reap the blessings of our gatherings, and I hope you leave here today better than when you entered, and I hope this is a constant cycle of good that we can all benefit from, inshallah. So, to start off, I want you all to imagine yourselves in any situation in life. You know, when things are good, we always tend to see, we're always grateful for the things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us. We never have any problems with our relationship with Allah when things are going our way. Our faith is always in check, and we're always showing immense gratitude for the things Allah gives us. But what happens when things aren't going our way? What happens when things are going in ways that we can't really know if there's light at the end of the tunnel? We have setbacks, we have losses, maybe it's a loved one, maybe it's a job you really want, maybe you're really trying to get into this certain program, or whatever the case may be. We tend to find ourselves in times of difficulty, and we tend to ask ourselves why. Like, how do we react to the things that are happening to us? For some of us, sometimes we might complain, or sometimes we might just feel a sense of defeat. we feel like there's no way for our problems to get better. And I want to start off with a really personal example of myself. Recently, I actually moved to Virginia. Alhamdulillah, I got a job down there, and it's been going well. But when I first moved, I felt very uncomfortable because I was taken away from my communities and my friends and my family, and I was all alone. And I wasn't able to be surrounded by that constant level of comfort that I'm used to. And it allowed me to honestly feel a sense of defeat. Like I felt like there was no khair in my situation, there was no good, there was no benefit. I just felt like I was taken out of a place of barakah and placed in a place that had nothing good for me. And I know I'm not the only one who has situations where they feel like that. So what can we do to combat these situations? And the topic of today's talk is sabr, tawakkul, and keeping a positive mindset. I feel like these three things are tools that can allow us to combat any single obstacle that happens in our lives in a way that instead of looking at them as trials or tribulations, we look at them as ways of seeking guidance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if you're going through something that provides guidance, that allows you to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you're not really going through a hardship. It's more of a blessing in disguise, but we can't see that in the moment. And that's where the positive mindset part comes, because you need to understand that what you're going through is going to bring you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even if it didn't seem like it in the moment, because we're so quick to look at the bad and say, how is this going to benefit me? But that's where the sabr part comes in, like I mentioned, it's also part of the topic. When you see how things play out, it's ultimately going to leave you in a state where you realize that what's happening is that you're improving. And sabr, also, we all know that's patience. We think of it as just waiting it out. But sabr isn't just waiting. It's like you make an active decision to have sabr, to be patient. Because you see things that are happening in your life, and you choose, instead of complaining, instead of you take the hardships that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you, and you know that there is light and tawbah. And the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his life is a sense of inspiration and example, because he was tested more than all of us. And his life is an example how we can handle life problems, and we can use the plans Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has for us to grow. And then tawakkul, obviously we all know, is putting our complete trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But when you have tawakkul, you should honestly be confident, because tawakkul means that you're placing all the faith that you have in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, knowing that whatever plan He has written for you, ultimately at the end of the day, is what's best for you. All your worries, anything you have that you think may go wrong, you don't have to worry, because whatever happens is what's the best for you because of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then there's the positive mindset. Positive mindset is crucial because it allows us to anchor ourselves in the present. A lot of times we tend to think about the past, like things that happened to us and how they affected us, and sometimes we tend to linger on those a lot. But when you look at those things in the past as a means for you to grow and get to where you are now, in order to create a better future, it changes your entire outlook on things that happened to you in your past and things that have caused you to have any sort of doubt or worries about whatever it is you're going through. And the reminder of having a positive mindset is that Allah's blessings are there and they're going to come, even if it doesn't seem apparent in the beginning. And these three things are interconnected, and they allow us to build on all these things together. And tawakkul allows us to trust Allah's plan. Sabr gives us the strength to endure, and the positive mindset exists that knowing that the good is beyond our struggles, and there's good in our struggles, and good is going to come out of our struggles. And three examples I have today are stories from our Prophet ﷺ. I want to talk about things that they went through and how they handled it and how we can apply it to our lives. And the first story I want to talk about is Prophet Ayub alayhi salam, inshallah. And I want you to remember the word inshallah, because I feel like it's a word that we use kind of like a habit. Like, inshallah, I'm going to do this, or I'll see you tomorrow, inshallah. But I feel like the true legacy of inshallah and what that word truly means and how we should take it is so different than like just using it as a habit. But I'm going to come back to that at the end. So the first story I want to talk about is the story of Prophet Ayub alayhi salam. Prophet Ayub was blessed with immense wealth. He had land, he was respected, he had a beautiful family of 14 children, and he was respected in his community. And these are all things, of course, we all want. But the thing about Prophet Ayub alayhi salam was he never let these things make him arrogant. He always used the blessings that he had and the good that he had to give back to those who were needy. He always saw his blessings as a way to give back and to help people. And his devotion was sincere, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saw that. And one day, the angels were praising Ayub's patience and devotion, which angered Shaitan a lot. And Shaitan claimed that all the good that Ayub is doing, he's only doing it because of the blessings Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him. And if he were to take these away, he would not be doing any of the good he's doing. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Al-Alim, He's all-knowing. He knows that Ayub's devotion is sincere, that his heart is pure, that all the good he's doing it because he genuinely wants to do it. He's not doing it only because he has resources. But you know what? He decides to put some tests in Ayub alayhi salam's life. And the first test that he had was that he lost all his wealth and his land. And after this test, Prophet Ayub alayhi salam still did not lose trust in Allah. He did not lose any of the positives that he had thinking of Allah. And this again also angered Shaitan. But then Shaitan claims this is simply just material belongings. And the true test of a parent is through the loss of his children. And then what actually ended up happening was Prophet Ayub alayhi salam's children, they actually ended up passing away. The building they were in all collapsed, which meant all 14 of them passed away. And then what ended up happening after that, Shaitan visited Ayub alayhi salam, disguised as a man, and he said to him that the circumstances under which your children had passed away, surely your Lord is not rewarding you properly for all your prayers. And Ayub alayhi salam responds to that and says, Allah gives me what is good for me and takes away what Allah sees as displeasing for him and for me. Allah sees that all these children may be a strong test and trial for me, so Allah took them away from me. Whether a thing is beneficial or harmful to me, I'll remain firm in my belief and remain thankful to my Creator. Even after that, after he lost his children, after they had all passed away, he did not lose that sight of tawakkul, trust in Allah, and that patience. He sees that if these children that he had, that he loved so much, were taken away from him, there's a reason for it. And it's not anything he has to worry about. And it's something that he knows that if they were meant to be in his life and they're not, it's not up to him, it's up to Allah. And he believes that his Lord has a better plan for him than he can see. So then after this, he was tested with his health, and he started to get very, very sick, and leaving his wife Rahma to take care of him. And after a while, his wife told him to, make dua to Allah to help him get through what he was going through. And then what he did was really interesting. He said to her, he reminded her of all the years they had, of all the blessings they had, the wealth, the children, the land, the high status. And he asked her how long that they had these blessings for. And it was around 8 years. And then he asked her how long was he going through these calamities. He said 7. He said this to mention that he thought about the years he had all the good, and it was more than the years he was going to struggle. And because of that, he felt like he was shy to ask because of all the good that he had. When in this situation, he's thinking about all the bad things that are happening, but he's not choosing to focus on that. He's focusing on all the good that's going on in his life. And then eventually a time came where he did ask Allah to help him with what he was going through. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded him to strike the ground, and a water came forth that healed him. And after that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rewarded him with his health and wealth back. And he also was given more children. So what we can take away from the story is that a big reason why a lot of us can't be patient or have sabr is because we feel like we need the result now. We need to see the result now. But Ayub alayhi salam shows that, for him it was a very long time of years, but you will get reward for your patience. Like sometimes we don't want to wait because we feel like there's no point to it. We're not going to get what we want. We're not going to get that thing that provides peace in our heart. But this story shows that everything he went through, he always never asked, why is this happening to me? Why me? Why is Allah doing this? He was a prophet. He could have easily been like, I'm Prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why is he allowing this to happen to my life? His own children had passed away, but that's not how he looked at it. He looked at it that his Lord knows what's good for him, and he also chose to remain patient on whatever his Lord decreed for him, and because of that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rewarded him for his patience. So I can really easily give a real life example that I'm sure all of us can relate to and think about. People in Gaza, people in Lebanon, people in Syria, Muslims all around the world who are suffering. They haven't given up. And I think this story shows that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He sees what they're going through and He knows what they're going through. He knows they're struggling, but He also has a reward for them. And this story teaches us that when we're going through hardship, remaining patient is the best thing we can do. Because there is going to be a reward for this patient, that our efforts are not in vain. And this story challenges us to consider when we're going through things instead of asking, why me? I don't know if he noticed this, but he never complained. He never questioned why this was happening to him. And when his wife told him to make dua, he reminded her of all the good that he had. How many times when we're going through stuff in our lives that aren't the way we want, we think about the good? When we're happy, when things are going the way we want, we forget about all the bad. The moment we're given a setback, we forget about all the good that we've had. We act like our world's ending. We act like all the good we had just suddenly disappeared. But Prophet Ayub alayhi salam, he always chose to focus on the good. no matter what was happening, no matter how many of his children, actually all of them passed away, all the wealth that he lost, all that his health that was deteriorating, he only remembered the good. He thought about the good. And this serves as a reminder to us that we need to have that same thing in our lives. When we're going through things that we don't know why they're happening or how we're going to get through them, we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has a way out for all of us. And all we have to do is remain patient and steadfast on what way He has written for us. And, it makes us consider, like, we all claim to have a really good relationship with our Rabb. But how would we respond if we went through, maybe not as severe as what Prophet Islam went through, but we went through our own calamities? Like, how would we respond to that? Would we complain? Would we question why this is happening to us? Or would we take the time to focus on the blessings Allah has given us and realize that whatever's happening right now, it is going to end, and we are going to be rewarded for the patience we went through. And Prophet Islam, his story is just such a perfect example of resilience. And I know all of us in our day-to-day lives, we have family, we have work stress, career stress, whatever it is, and we get frustrated, we complain, like I mentioned. But if we looked at these as opportunities for us to see growth, as ways for us to improve, I believe that we can come out of any obstacle better than when we entered it. And they're not really trials and obstacles, they're just means for us to get better from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they're not really challenges, they're things that happen in our lives that can transform into something meaningful and draw us closer to Allah. And the next story I want to talk about is the story of Prophet Musa alayhi salam. It was when he was on the run from Pharaoh, and he was trapped with his followers by the Red Sea. And his followers began to panic because they didn't really see a way out of the situation they were in. They didn't see a light at the end of the tunnel because they were trapped. They didn't really see it. And Pharaoh's army is coming in closer. They don't really see themselves getting out of the situation. And at the moment, it was really easy for Musa alayhi salam to panic or begin to lose hope. But he remained calm and steadfast, and he assured them, saying, "Qala qalla inna maya rabbi sayyidina." Indeed, my Lord is with me, He will guide me. This statement that he said is the exact thing the tawakkul is all about. He doesn't see a way out of the situation either, but he's remaining calm because he has faith that Allah is not going to abandon him. All his followers are panicking. They don't really know how they're going to get out of this, but he chooses to remain steadfast, knowing that Allah has a way out for him, even if he can't see it. And what ended up happening is, Allah instructed him to strike the sea with the staff, and when he did, the waters parted, allowing them to escape from Pharaoh and his army. And I think the biggest thing we can take away from this story is that when you put your trust in Allah, fully in Allah, even if you can't see a way out of whatever obstacle you're in, Allah can provide barakah. He can provide a solution from a means that you could have never even thought of. He can get you out of your problems in a way that you couldn't even imagine. This is what happened to Musa alayhi salam. And I think this story, the best thing that it does is that it shows us that when you have trust in Allah, and a lot of the time we have problems, it has to be solved in a certain way. I have to get this job, or I need this thing in my life. And you tend to want very specific things, but we don't even know if those things are good for us in the first place. We don't know if those things are going to solve our problems or not. But the only one who truly knows within our hearts how to solve problems is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in order for that to work, we need to have tawakkul. We need to have trust in Allah that He knows what's good for us and what's bad for us. And no matter what problem we're going through, there's always a solution out. There's always light at the end of the tunnel. And the story of Musa alayhi salam, again, he didn't go into it thinking that there was a way out of the calamity he was in. He was trapped. The Pharaoh's army was closing in. But he chose, instead of panicking, instead of questioning anything, he chose to put all of his faith in Allah. And because of that, Allah found a way out for him in a way that he could have never even expected. And that's the beauty of tawakkul, because when we put all of our trust in Allah, He tends to solve our problems in a way that we could have never imagined, in a way that we couldn't have even dreamed of. And I think that's the best part, because, again, like I said, we tend to try to envision our solution in a certain way. I need this specific thing to fix my problem. But what if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has something better for us that we couldn't even imagine? And in Musa alayhi salam's story, he literally found a way out for him that he couldn't have even imagined. He wasn't even expecting it, but it happened. And that's the beauty of it, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows us to find ways out of our problems in ways that we couldn't even imagine. And one last story I want to talk about is the story of Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam. And his journey was filled with nothing but hardship. He was betrayed by his brothers, he was thrown into a well, and he was arrested for a crime he did not even commit. And it was really easy for him to begin to lose hope or not have that positive mindset that we mentioned. But what ended up happening was he didn't dwell on the injustice that he went through. He helped others. When he was in prison, he would often start by interpreting other people's dreams and helping them out any way he could. He could have easily lost hope, but instead he never did. He kept trying to do good, even though he was in a situation where everything was bad. And what ended up happening was this. He ended up going from prison to a position of a lot of high power. And what actually ended up happening was this. He became in a state where he actually connected with the brothers that betrayed him. They didn't remember him, but he remembered them. And he could have easily just lashed out on them. He could have easily went to them and he could have punished them for all the hardship that they put him through. But what actually ended up happening was this. He actually chose to forgive them. And he actually ended up saying to them, no blame will there be upon you today. Allah will forgive you. He's the most merciful. Because he understands that the things that he went through in his life, even if they were through people that betrayed him, ultimately made the man that he ended up becoming. And instead of looking for revenge or looking for a means to get back at those who wronged him, he looks at it as a way for him to grow and get better. And no matter what's happening, sometimes people wrong us, sometimes things happen to us where, we want to get back at people, we want to prove them wrong. But instead of looking at it like that, we look at it as a way for us to grow and get better, not holding on to revenge, but keeping a positive mindset. It allows us to grow in ways we couldn't expect. And him forgiving them shows that he doesn't care that they wronged him. But what he is thankful for is that these things happened to him in the first place because they ultimately put him in the path he is now. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala actually tells us in the Quran, if you are grateful, I will surely increase you in favor. And this means by being thankful, we open ourselves up to blessing and positivity from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I think a practical way to build this for ourselves is naming things we're grateful for every single day. Because when we're going through calamities, when we're going through things that we don't really want to happen to us, when we're uncomfortable, we tend to think about all the bad, but if we remind ourselves of the good that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us, the good always outweighs the bad, and we're always going to find ourselves in that positive mindset where no matter what I'm going through, the patience and the welcome that I have is going to get me through any obstacle I have in my life. And when we shift our focus away from things that aren't in our control, our outlook begins to brighten up. Because a lot of the times we tend to we want to control every single thing. This thing has to happen in a very specific way. It has to look a certain way. It has to act a certain way. It has to look at whatever the case may be. But that's not our purpose. Our purpose is to trust that whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives me, it's going to give me good and it's going to have a positive impact on my life. And I want to close off by saying the word inshallah again. Like I mentioned in the beginning, the word inshallah, we usually use it like in terms of like a habit, like inshallah I'm going to use, or I'll see you tomorrow inshallah. But when we say inshallah, we are putting all of our efforts with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, all our endeavors, knowing that whatever happens is by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's will. Whether it's good or bad is not the point. When you say inshallah, that's the complete essence of tawakkul. Knowing that whatever is happening, whatever is going to happen, is all in control of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we can find peace through that, knowing that everything is in control by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because He knows what's best for us when we don't, and He can solve our problems in a way we couldn't even expect. And may Allah grant us patience like Ayub alayhi salam, trust like Musa alayhi salam, and resilience like Yusuf. And I hope these lessons allow us to navigate our lives in a more positive way and see that hardships ultimately become blessings. And that's all I have for today. I hope that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows you all to benefit from my talk. And I hope one day one of these families nights we have is in our new center, inshallah. And I thank all of you for allowing me to talk today. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.